here for the third WebEx meeting for Division A membership team. Thank you for your participation. My name is Peter Liao, the chair of the Division A membership team. Our mission is to make a Toastmaster program available to a greater number of people who want to improve their communication and leadership skills. We facilitate an online forum for members to meet regularly on selected topics related to Toastmaster communication and leadership program. We are focusing on growing our team by gathering members with similar growth mindset and help the members to grow their clubs. Once we gain the momentum, the team will assist the district with club building activities, such as demonstration meetings. And our vision, simply put, is leaders coach leaders. Today's agenda is here, and our theme is mentoring. We have two speakers from Area 11, Dr. Helena Chi and Dr. Seda Galvez. They will share their stories with us. I appreciate their preparation for this meeting. This is an online meeting, so we need to have some meeting etiquette. First one, I want to keep Toastmasters' value in mind: integrity, respect, service, and excellence. And which means we do the right thing, we value each member, we help each other, and we bring our best. And please keep the noise level low around your phone, and speaking be brief and relevant, especially during roundtable. And feedback to be constructive. Feel free to ask questions and have fun. Today's Toastmaster, allow me to introduce Charles Bresky. He is a project manager with Indiana Department of Transportation. He is in charge of several road and bridge projects throughout Northwest Indiana. He is married and has 2 children. This fall, he and his wife will become empty nesters, as both of their children will be attending Ball State in Muncie. In his free time, Charles enjoys bicycle riding, woodworking, and watching hockey, especially the Chicago Blackhawks. Last year, he accomplished a goal by biking 3,000 miles. He hopes to ride further this year, but he is currently busy remodeling his kitchen, including making all the cabinet doors himself. With that, Charles, please take it away.
Well, welcome everyone. I've got a nice turnout this afternoon, and that's good to see. This project of Peter's is really starting to take off, and I'm happy for him. I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Helen Chi. Toastmasters International has implemented its mentoring program with its due emphasis and support. After joining Toastmasters 6 years ago as a new member, Helena Chi benefited greatly from her mentor's help. Now she looks back and digs a little deeper. Today, Helena is able to share with us some historical acts as well as her own experience in conclusion. I'd like to introduce Dr. Helena Chi with a commendable program. A commendable program, Dr. Helen Chi.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, and all fellow Toastmasters. On January 27, 2011, I stood before the audience of Toastmasters Club number 3313 in a trembling voice and with a heart beating like a wild animal bouncing against its cage. I delivered my icebreaker. But less than 10 months later, on November the 10th, and in the same room, I steadily walked up the podium to give my last speech in the Competent Communicators Manual, in spite of the fact that I had missed Toastmasters meeting for about 1.5 months that year, owing to my overseas traveling. If you assume I started out on a high ground, you are dead wrong. Quite contrary, I was actually way below average as a new Toastmaster. You see, I was born and grew up in communist China. For the most of the time I lived there, you guys were called American devils, and your language was almost irrelevant to us. I was lucky to have come to this side of the Pacific Ocean not long after the reform had begun. Yet I didn't take a single language arts class while earning my PhD in chemistry. At the time I joined Toastmasters, both my written and spoken English really sucked. Then you may wonder, how could I attain my CC within the first year? Let me tell you, I couldn't have done it without Toastmasters mentoring program. As a newbie, I obviously needed help. So the club assigned Catherine to be my mentor, answered my questions, edited my script, gave me her feedback, and loaned me her personal books. She also introduced me to a local writer's critique group where I had all my speech manuscripts refined. Her help to me was invaluable. Now, history tells us that the tradition of mentoring is as old as the human existence. In his epic Odyssey, written about 2,700 years ago, Homer chronicled the legend of Odysseus. After the fall of Troy, the shipwrecked Greek wanderer took 10 years to return to his kingdom, Ithaca. For a long time, his death was assumed, and his wife Penelope and son Telemachus faced many hard decisions. The happy ending of the hero's story owed largely to his wise decision. That is, before leaving to fight the Trojan War, Odysseus entrusted his old friend, named Mentor, to be in charge of his little boy. During the long absence of Odysseus, Mentor himself, as well as Athena, the goddess of wisdom, who appeared in Mentor's disguise, guided young Telemachus, who later stood up bravely against many unruly suitors of his mother. Based on this anecdote, the personal name Mentor evolved into an English word, denoting someone who imparts wisdom to and shares knowledge with a less experienced person, whom is known as a mentee. I haven't found out since when Toastmasters International began the program, but the organization has certainly demonstrated its commitment by crediting mentors toward gaining CL and ACG awards, and by a specialized mentorship column in its monthly magazine, Toastmasters. There's also an educational speech menu dedicated to mentoring. Now, let's briefly review the program's benefits. First, to mentees. It's obvious that mentees stand to gain greatest benefits, just as in my case. Although Catherine ceased to be a Toastmaster several years ago, we remain good friends and see each other regularly at other events. On my part, I am forever grateful for her help. Second, to mentors. Mentors have the satisfaction of making a positive difference. They can also earn their mentees' gratitude and enjoy their friendship. For example, when appointed to chair a committee at Indiana Writers Consortium, Catherine promptly recruited me to be on her committee because we work very well together. Last but not the least, to the club. With its members more involved, active, and satisfied, our club thrives. We can grow not only in membership, but also in members' positive experience. Therefore, I would conclude that Toastmasters mentoring program is indeed a commendable course of great value. What do you think, Ms. Toastmaster?
Well, thank you very much, Helena. The mentoring program is really beneficial and for any organization. And Toastmasters has been on the forefront of teaching people and teaching the world, really, how to become a better mentor and how to do the mentoring right. There's a lot of programs out there on mentoring that don't even address or incorrectly address how to become a mentor, or don't even tell you how to become a mentor or what are the proper roles of being a mentor or a mentee. Our next speaker is Seda Galvis. Seda is a native of Turkey and works in Northwest Indiana as a therapist, coach, and a consultant. She has her PhD in Human Development and Family Studies. She's a member of the Great Communicators of Northwest Indiana. Please welcome Seda Galvis, Mentoring at the Corner of Acceptance and Encouragement. Mentoring at the Corner of Acceptance and Encouragement, Dr. Seda Galvis.
Mr. Toastmasters, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. What a wonderful format we have here today. As English is my second language, I rely a lot on my nonverbal expression. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to go, as this is my first webinar. Here are some general guidelines for my presentation. But since I cannot see you, I think you can all yawn as much as you want. When I first walked in the doors of Toastmasters, I did not have any expectation. My friend who spent several years improving his public speaking skills suggested this club to me. It was a very scary task for me because not only did I not like public speaking, I also had to do it in a second language. So my plan was to be quiet and observe for the first couple of months and see if I learned something. Well, as you probably guessed, that plan did not work. And because I was at a welcoming meeting that was running effectively, I was asked to give a table topic speech the first time I was at the club meeting. Clearly, I couldn't be an observer anymore, and that's exactly what I needed. I quickly realized that I looked up to a couple of people in the club meeting. I admired their presence when they were giving speeches and wanted to learn the magic from them. Once I was informed about the mentoring aspect of Toastmasters, I asked a person that I really enjoyed listening to, who had the mindset of lifting others, if she would mentor me. And that's where I found my own voice as a speaker. I'm not only type A, I'm actually type AA. Therefore, the icebreaker that I was first presenting to my mentor was too cerebral. Guess which one is representing me in this slide? We basically agreed that I was not presenting my dissertation. Just some fun facts about me and where I came from would be just great. One of the first things I remember her mentoring me on was the importance of the first 7 seconds of a presentation. Capturing the audience's attention in the beginning was crucial for an effective speech. The more we talked, the less I felt overwhelmed. At the meeting, I gave a successful icebreaker, and my name wasn't written in the pages of history as the first person to die giving an icebreaker speech in Toastmasters. This was a great mentoring experience for me because I learned to break down the steps of a giving successful speech. And this process was effective for me because I felt accepted and encouraged at the same time. It was an individualized mentoring approach where I felt heard about where I was, and the next step that I needed was outlined clearly with kindness. I worked with my mentor for the first 3 speeches. Her unconditional acceptance and kind encouragement allowed me to be myself when I was in the stage. And finally, I learned to fly without the parachute. After this turbulence, a new member approached me and asked me to be his mentor. I was honored, but thought that this was probably an episode of What Would You Do? So I looked around for the hidden cameras. Did he not realize that I just took off my parachute? So all I could do was to be honest and explain to him that I was pretty new in Toastmasters. At the time, I was probably a member for a year, and hoped that this explanation would change his mind. But he said he really enjoyed my speeches and would love to learn from me. So that started the process of me becoming a mentor. What I worked with him on was not exactly the same what I worked on with my mentor. His needs were different than my needs in the beginning. But even though the content was different, the process of the relationship was the same. It was built on acceptance and encouragement. And of course, the encouragement was about him finding his own voice. His unique personality was waiting to be expressed. This was such a wonderful experience for me to observe. In each of the 3 speeches that we worked on, I could see that he was sharing more parts of himself. We also discussed the Toastmasters organization and how he can take different roles in the meeting. So I encouraged him to use his competent leadership manual, since being a leader was one of his long-term goals. This experience was very valuable for me, and I was honored to be part of a wonderful organization that allowed this growth process. I think that we are all fellow travelers in Toastmasters, just as we are in life. We all have parts of us that are waiting to be expressed, and we all need safe, accepting, and encouraging environments in order to flourish. We may have started our journey in different locations, but we are now in the same boat together. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you very much, Dr. Seta. One of the important roles that we as adults in society, in whatever society we're in, one of the important roles that we have, we may not realize it, is that we are all mentors. Mentoring is not something that you just sign up for and then you're assigned a mentee. But in reality, we are all mentors in every aspect of life. We have kids that look up to us. We have our coworkers that look up to us. So everyone as a human being, as an adult human being, is a mentor, whether you realize it or not. And I think that with the Toastmasters program on mentoring, it really helps us focus on being a good mentor. Whether we want to be a positive mentor or a negative mentor, that's irrelevant. But we are going to become good mentors. Well, thank you for the speeches. I'd like to turn it over to the roundtable discussion on mentoring. So, does anybody want to start off with anything?
Tom, and as you were speaking, you mentioned positive and negative mentors. Could you give me an example of what you mean by negative mentors?
Well, a negative mentor would be someone who promotes, I would say, someone who promotes breaking the law, a drug dealer, a drug kingpin. That's teaching leadership, and that's, and you know, negative. And realize this is, I'm giving you an opinion, but in my opinion, that's a negative mentor. You're not the younglings that are underneath you, the people that are looking up to you, are not learning to become good members of society.
In other words, what you're really saying, if I understand you, is they're not being honest or realistic. They're sort of changing the concept of, in my book, if we don't do positive things, we're going in the wrong direction. Of course, once again, then you have to allow everyone to have their own opinion, their own judgments.
Correct. Correct.
You've spelled, from my perspective, you spelled out the question I had. And as I say, I'm a researcher. I do a lot of work on the outside world, and there has to be a tremendous amount of help in the outside world. And as you mentioned, which is very important, I picked this up and I says, good, that's a plus. We can't talk to these people. We can't preach to them. We can't do anything. We must learn how to mentor them, and we can gain more that way than probably any other way.
Correct. I mean, we can teach them, but mentoring is much more effective.
Right.
This is Jim Dent. My question is, how do you convince members to be mentors for other members when you've got maybe a lot of people that just don't want to do it?
I would say that, first off, you got to get them active in the club. And then, and to do that, maybe point out to them how much time it really takes. And be realistic. A lot of people don't want to promote, don't want to get in and jump in because they don't have the time. None of us have the time. It's what's important. But if you realize it's okay, maybe it's going to be an hour a week, maybe it's going to be an hour every 2 weeks. It's what you expect out of them to be a mentor. Anybody else have any other comments?
So this is Peter. When I joined Toastmasters, I think mentoring is a very huge task. So when people say, will you mentor some of the new members, I feel very stressful because I don't know what I can share. But after I learn a little bit more, now I know mentors provide directions and coaching and provide things you know that you have been walked through, and then you can share the path with the newcomer. And that's much easier. So I think to persuade a member to mentor the other member, you need to prepare the members to let them know what is mentoring about. That's my opinion. And I think we have two division directors here. I'd like to hear their opinion.
My opinion of the Toastmasters mentoring program is mixed. I think the way that it's explained in our materials leaves out that important one-on-one coaching event that is a pivot point for a speaker. It's great to emulate somebody else. You see them give speeches, you see someone else give a speech, and you pick up something from them. But it's that one-on-one feedback that made a difference to my speaking. And I think that if Toastmasters would focus more on the one-on-one part of mentoring, the program would gain more momentum and more success. And with any program that Toastmasters offers, I believe that rewards in front of the group is an essential part of it. There's mentoring pins and certificates that are awarded at the completion of the 3 speeches. And I don't know any of my 12 clubs that employ either of those. Deb, what do you think?
Any other comments?
I would also want to add one thing. I think if the mentoring program in Toastmasters is promoted in a more effective way in the meetings, more people will know about it and they will want mentors, which will give them the real life experience, what it means to be mentored. And then they can turn and be mentors. So then the stress level might be reduced a bit because they walk the walk and they can do that. If I wasn't mentored, I don't think I would agree to be a mentor. So that really helps me to see that process in itself, which was basically, in a way, giving me permission to be the way that I am, not to fit into a box. This is the way to do it, but be myself. And at the same time, here are some effective tools that work. And take what you want and leave what you don't want. So, for instance, what Carol mentioned about the certificates about the mentoring, I've never seen that since I've been in Toastmasters. I've never even heard about that. Right. So I think those are the aspects that we can integrate in the meetings more for letting even individuals know that this program exists. And then I think it can be easier for people to agree to be mentors.
I agree with what they said there. Being a senior, joining Toastmasters for a particular purpose, find a newer and a more direct, how can I say, direction in life. But true, for the longest time, I was sort of groping and searching for a mentor in our group. And they mentioned Catherine Page, who's a terrific person and a beautiful mentor. I never got the opportunity to really get into this program with her. But at the same time, there are various ways of how you can get started. And what is the total end of mentoring? I think there's no total, how can I say, there's an unlimited amount of goodness that can be gained by this program.
Yes, I think that a lot of the clubs, Mr. Charles, a lot of the clubs, at least our club doesn't promote it like we should, and maybe that needs to change, and that does need to change. We just don't realize we know the benefits, we just don't realize that what people don't know, someone coming into our club, they don't know what the different options are.
I guess the question would be, let's take any group, how many mentors or qualified mentors or period would there be in a group? That would be very nominal at the beginning. and you have to learn that, and within the system, it has to be guided and trained.
So this is Peter. Question about how the mentoring program run in other divisions. Deb, since you are online, I'd like to pick your brain on how do you promote the program in your division?
Peter, we use Facebook, we use emails. We could do a better job of using the mentoring system, and I'm sure that would help with our numbers, but certainly I think the most important thing is that it would help with what individual members get out of Toastmasters. This is food for thought. I'm not answering your question very well in that we haven't shared this information, but I will make it sure that our membership team looks at membership when it plans our upcoming agendas. Did I answer your question?
I think kind of, because I'm curious about how everyone run their program. And as you can see, we are trying to figure out, and I think through the discussion, I can see we are aware this is important for the clubs, and we want to promote this, and we want to learn more detail about this and introduce to our club. And to my knowledge, I know there are some club successful program has mentioned the mentoring topic. There's a session there. So we need to dig to that and then practice on the content and then introduce to the members.
Any other thoughts on mentoring for this discussion?
We have Serena on the line. She's from our club. I want to hear Serena's viewpoint about mentoring.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. Really enjoyed the speeches. Mentoring is something that I am interested in doing in Toastmasters, and I guess I was feeling a little apprehensive, but I do see the importance of mentoring someone. I guess for me, I kind of felt the same as the speaker who mentioned, well, I've only been doing this for a year. You really want me to mentor you? That's kind of how I feel. I'm not even through my CC manual. But at the same time, I feel that just guiding someone, pointing them in the right direction is part of mentoring as well. And I think that gives them a good foundation for later. Because I think sometimes we might lose members if they don't have direction in the beginning. Then they just start to feel a little left out and they might decide to just stop going. So if they have that direction and that foundation in the beginning, then I think it'll really help them grow better and really, I can't think of the word, really be able to know and feel what Toastmasters is about.
I'd like to turn it over to our general evaluator.
Fellow Toastmasters, we did start 1 minute late, and that's okay because I think we're getting better at this. All the guests were greeted and welcomed. We read the mission statement so that we are reminded of why we're here and what we should focus on. We had a very good start with meeting etiquette. I like that excellent introduction of each speaker. Because we can't see the speakers, it kind of gives a depth, a dimension. Let's listen to their voices. And those introductions were really well prepared. Our Toastmaster kept the meeting moving and tried to get everyone involved in the roundtable discussion. I think that's important to call out people by name in a call-in meeting. Since we can't see each other's body signals, that a person wants to add something. So as far as recommendations, just one silly one. I think it would be fun if we had an applause wave file. And then we could play just a few seconds of applause after each speaker. It just might add a little humor. But my real point would be that perhaps the points of each of the speakers' ideas that helps clubs could be summarized on a slide, so each of us know what exactly to take back to our clubs that would contribute to the strong and healthy premise. Mr. Toastmaster.
Well, thank you very much. Peter, I'd like to turn the meeting back over to you.
Thank you, Charles. Great job on the first time running the meeting. This is an experiment, and we are trying to prove the concept of using WebEx as a meeting tool. So I don't want to run it too long, and this is kind of get everybody a flavor. So I want to hear, Tom, can you provide some thoughts about the meeting? And then followed by Dennis. Tom first.
Thanks, Peter. I thought the meeting was great, and it's an efficient way for all of us to get together, communicate, and learn from each other, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
How about you, Dennis?
I thought it was good. A way to communicate ideas outside of the normal club structure. And I learned a little bit about mentoring. I myself had never heard very much about mentoring until Carol came into our club, and she had knowledge of it, and she was actually mentoring a few people. I never even knew there was a mentoring program, so maybe that needs to be built in more to the basic Toastmaster structure. I could see great benefits to that program itself. And I also noticed something about myself here. I'm still working on my Oz, and even on in this platform, I'm still doing the Oz here. So, got to still work on that, folks.
And this is the first meeting we talk about mentoring. I try not to talk about theory because on the Toastmaster manual, it will talk about mentoring has 3 elements or 5 points, and that could be very boring. So I bundle it in a storytelling way, and I thank our speakers today share their personal story. That's great contribution to our conversation here, and we hear this and that, and hope the meeting can inspire everyone some thoughts and grow their club better. So next month, we are going to have a topic called How to Close a Deal. And the background is when a guest visits our club through ad and through our VPPR, how do you welcome them? And how do you introduce the Toastmaster program? And ask them, as a guest, to be our member to join us. So this will be the topic we were talking about next time, June 17, Friday, the same time. And we have one leadership opportunity, that's Toastmaster, who will introduce the speakers and lead the discussion. So if you are working on your facilitating discussion, this is the perfect environment for you. And even if you're not, I think this is a great experience to learn how to lead a discussion. And we need 2 speakers. So if you know anyone, please send a name to me. You can volunteer yourself. How to close the deal. So with that, I close the meeting.